Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Gonna get back to work on the MR2. When we left off in the last video, I had started taking out the old throttle cable, realized I had to pull off all the under tray shields and just didn't have time to do that. So first thing I'm gonna get to today is getting those things dropped and then start removing the cable the rest of the way, get that out of the car, and then that'll be one thing off the list. For anybody who is following along for the Cobra here, I have been ordering some parts and whatnot, so there will be a video coming up on this eventually. I'm not done with it. The last 3 gauges, I have those that I've got one of them already, a couple of them on order. Got some other interior bits. With those gauges, I'm going to be pulling the dash back out and removing a lot of the excess wiring that was in there, since I can now clean it up. Those are some of the winter projects I have. Also want to take care of a couple leaks that the engine has. Need to look into a few things more, but there's a minor coolant leak and a minor oil leak. Kind of have an idea what I think they may be, but more to come on that. So that being said, I am going to get back to work on this one here. Time to crawl under it, start removing the pans, and get that cable out. All right, real quick update. Here we are under the car. Got all the center splash shields off, and you can see the cable is laying there. I got it pulled through where it was weaved above the different cross members and attached to the different little retainer clips and whatnot. So just need to get up in the frunk area and pull it up through, and we should be able to get that then pulled through the interior. All right, I got it pulled up through. There's a hole down there, right there, that you can see next to the power steering motor pump assembly. I'm gonna have to find a grommet that fits that just so I plug it up and I don't have a hole in the floor pan. So next thing I'm gonna do is pull it through the interior. The hole is right there. Same thing, I need to find a grommet that fits that hole as well, just to plug it, since that will no longer be needed with the drive-by-wire. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done. All right, and there we go. That is job done. You can see what the cable looks like now. Pretty long cable. And this is what I was talking about. This piece right here mounts to the wall, the firewall. It's got the throttle stop, and then there's 2 bolt holes that go through those 2 holes. And then this backside seals it to the hole in the firewall. So I'll have to measure that for the grommet. And then here's the other grommet. I'll have to just measure, see what size it was. And then I can get a couple grommets to fit those holes. But that's it, cable out. Now I can run the wiring for the drive-by-wire and get to work on that. All right, and while I was at it, decided to pull out the cruise control harness since I'm not gonna be using cruise. It was pretty straightforward. Pulled it through the hole back here. This is on the passenger side. And then it just basically goes down right inside the sill underneath the carpet. So you just have to pull the carpet up. And then the plug goes all the way up front, and then there's a plug for it under the dash right here in the passenger kick panel, mixed in with that wiring there. If you follow it, you'll find it really easy. Just one connector that is hooked up under there. So same thing, there's a grommet on here for the firewall, the rear firewall right here. So I'll just have to measure it, get the size so I can get a plug to put in the hole, and that will be all set there. All right, so here I am messing around with trying to double check the pinouts on this car. As I previously mentioned, this was originally a naturally aspirated car. It's a 93. It was converted to a Rev 3 turbo drivetrain. So here's the plug that I have from the body harness that this went into the ECU. So in looking at it, you've got the block of 2 raised, 8 in a row, 1 raised on that side, and then double stacked. So I'm looking in the 93 wiring diagrams, from the books I have, and I'm looking at the 5S information because that's what originally this had. Now, in looking at the 5S Auto, it has that matching plug there, right there. But as far as I know, this was a manual. It was built as a manual. In looking at the wiring diagram for the 5S manual, it doesn't have that plug. So I'm guessing I should still go off of the one for the auto, being that, that's the one that matches. I've already found some things in this book that don't match what this car has, and basically I'm kind of just flying by the seat of my pants because I don't know what this car has been through in its past. So like I said, as far as I know, this was built a naturally aspirated manual transmission car, but yeah, who knows along the way. So I'm going to start going through. I basically just want to match what the wiring diagram says should be in each pinout to what is in the pinout, just so I know what I'm plugging into the adapter harness with the plug that Paul Woods provided to mate to it right here. Unfortunately, it's wrapped, so I don't know what exactly goes where. What I may try and do, just to be thorough, is once I know what is on this side that's going to plug in and mate with this side, I may then compare what the other end of this is, or what the match to this wire is on these plugs and where they're supposed to go for this plug, which goes into the ECU, just to see if I can figure out what matches up to what. So got a little bit of investigating to do just to get the bottom of things and make sure that everything is wired properly and matches up and goes where it needs to go. So that's where I'm at the moment, but at least wanted to kind of go over what joy I need to deal with, being that I've got a pretty bastardized car, just to make sure that everything is functional and runs right once I get the engine in here. All right, so I did peel the wire sheathing off of the plug on the Paul Woods harness. You can see there, how everything's spliced in with an old a plug and then the new wiring that he uses. I tried chasing some of the wires. It's hard to tell which pins they go to. I looked at a couple of the wire colors, tried to do continuity tests to find like their matches in some of the other plugs. I can't get anything to get continuity, so I am going to have to see if I can find a Sienna pinout. I think Frankenstein's got some posted, and just try and do a little more chasing on this, because like I said, I'm just not finding things that match up. I found a pinout for these 3 plugs, like what they're supposed to be on the Sienna harness color wise, and I found the right ones for this engine, so I'm good there. So I kind of have an idea what each of these wires are supposed to connect to, so that's a plus. But it's just trying to figure out what is actually going into this plug, which matches up with this plug, based on the fact that I have what was a 5S manual transmission car, and this plug doesn't exist on a 5S manual transmission car according to the wiring diagrams. And when I'm looking at the automatic transmission one, wires don't quite match up. I looked at the 3S one, wires don't quite match up. I have a feeling there was a different harness for the body side swapped into this car at some point in time as well, because I've had other issues with like the power windows, and there's wiring in here that this car shouldn't in theory have had and whatnot. So I'm, again, not knowing the history of this car, it's hard to say for sure, but I definitely think some stuff has been swapped over the years, which is, making my life difficult. I mean, I could just plug it all together and cross my fingers. I just don't want to fry an ECU or something like that. So just trying to make sure everything is where it is supposed to be. So going to do some searching online as far as wiring goes, see if I can get to the bottom of this and go from there. All right, update time on the wiring. So I did some searching online. I made sure to go ahead and pull, Frankenstein has these pinout diagrams on their site, which are great. The small connector one here, and then I also have the one which is matched to the connectors that I have coming off of my engine harness, the 3 chassis integration. There's 2 variants listed on his site. I confirmed that the wires and their pinouts on this one are the ones that I have. So I have that for future reference. And then I did also find someone had created a spreadsheet. This was on one of the MR2 forums from doing a Rev 2 to Rev 3 swap, and they actually had the nice pinouts for the E6 connector. And in looking at what they had for their Gen 3 E6 pinout right here, it pretty much matches up with what I have coming out of this the firewall here. So I don't know if that's what it was supposed to be on a 93 non-turbo, or if somebody did put a Rev 3 harness in here. I mean, again, don't know the history of the car, so either way, that's what it looks like I have. I also went back, which I probably should have done this in the beginning, to my notes and contact between Paul Woods and myself when I had this harness made. Again, this is like a year and a half ago. And did confirm everything with him. I remember I did send, after going back and looking at the messages, I did send him all these photos. And he said, you know, basically the way he's pinning it out, if the engine runs right now, it will run just the same when I put the 2GR in. So I'm feeling pretty confident at this point in time that I can just plug these few things in and go with it. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to, you know, delume anything and chase any more wires. I did send him detailed pictures of my E6 plug in everything that I sent him, so he saw how it was exactly pinned and whatnot. So I think I'm just kind of overthinking and stressing myself at this point in time. So I'm gonna go with it and move on to the next, and hopefully we can go ahead and get this thing punched in and plug everything in, and it fires right up without an issue. So that's the whole point of this harness. And that's the whole reason I went with it. I'm just kind of a little neurotic, I guess, because I've, you know, worked on many cars in the past that have been fixer-uppers that I've had to clean up, you know, things in the past. And when I start looking at wiring diagrams from the factory that don't match wiring diagrams that are in there, or the wires that are in the car, it makes me a little nervous. So anyway, that being said, I think I have rambled on enough about wiring. And yeah, that is what my plan is with the wiring harness. And I'm just gonna, you know, trust the adapter harness and send it. We'll see how it goes. All right, so went ahead and rewrapped that connector and got those two, the E6 and then the other one from the body harness, plugged in. So all set there. And then I went ahead and I have the mounting brackets from Frankenstein. So I went on the site just to confirm the mounting places, got everything screwed into the ECU. And then it will final mount here on the firewall. It uses that bolt there, that one there, and that one there. And you can kind of see where it'll lay when all said and done with the connectors going downwards. So everything is all set there as far as getting them ECU mounted. You do have to wait until you have both connectors plugged in. So can't do the official mount at this time, but it's at least prepped and ready to go. All right, so after all this droning and whatnot, I believe I am at a point where I'm going to stop this video. I can say, at least though, I think as far as the body and chassis goes, I've pretty much got done everything I want to do before I can put the engine and transmission combo in. So I think that's what's going to be next up. So that makes this a good starting point, or a good stopping point. Next video, I'll probably start, I'll wheel that transmission out from under the car, start working on getting that thing cleaned up. I want to get the engine off the stand and dummy mate the transmission to it before I have the clutch and stuff on there, just to make sure that all my clearances are good for where I had to do the little bit of clearancing work on the block. And then once I'm set with that, I can get everything mounted on the back of the engine. Hopefully Hux will be coming through shortly and getting me the titanium bolt kit I had ordered. I know he was just waiting on the last few bolts. I went ahead today and I ordered all of the plugs from earlier in the video. So I've got the 3 different size plugs, one for the firewall where the cruise cable went through, and then the 2 for the throttle cable spots. So those are on order, should have those in a day or two. Surprise, surprise, this box just came here, and this was a Black Friday sale I took advantage of. TCS, full axle kits with the stub shafts. So I have an intermediate shaft, the stub shaft, and then 2 axles for a 93 Turbo. So I will go ahead and be selling the ones I pulled from the car, which they're actually in decent shape, but they need to be just cleaned. I was gonna, reboot them, re-grease them, and for the TCS prices on the Black Friday sale, I kind of was just like, you know what, I'll go ahead and just get fresh, nice, shiny looking stuff. So You'll probably be seeing a pair of turbo axles from a 95 REV3 MR2 popping up on the forum shortly. And yeah, so that's where things are at. I do also need to put a list together of some of the other titanium hardware I want to get, as far as the 4 subframe bolts, some of the longer, bigger hardware for the engine mounts and whatnot. I'm kind of, if it's small, tiny stuff that's like under an inch long, I'm not going to bother because the weight savings is going to be minimal. But, some of that bigger, longer hardware, I figure, going titanium on it probably wouldn't be the end of the world. It'll, lose a little weight. So it'll look a little nicer being fresh hardware. So, yeah, so that's where things are at. So that being said, I'm going to wrap this one up here. I know this one was kind of long and droney, but it was, stuff that had to get done just to, get this thing ready for the swap. So hopefully next video, I'll be starting to get a little more into the meat of things, and we'll hopefully have an engine in the back of this car. My goal is to have it done by New Year's is basically what I'm looking for. I've got a good chunk of the last part of December off, so I'm hoping I can have everything as prepped as possible, and by New Year's Eve at least have the 2GR and transmission mounted in the back of this beast. So if you're enjoying what you're seeing, if you're learning something, if you want to keep learning, hopefully I'll keep educating. Please please subscribe, please hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.